Picture last night's chicken. Fresh package, fair price, nothing looked off. Then it hit the pan and immediately started leaking liquid instead of searing. No sizzle, no browning, just a shallow puddle forming around it, while the whole piece slowly shrank down to something noticeably smaller than what went in. You didn't do anything wrong in that kitchen. The chicken was simply behaving exactly the way it was built to behave. And here's the part that'll actually bother you. The retailer that pulled this trick hardest in our testing isn't some bargain bin chain. It's one of the most trusted, most beloved names in American retail. A store a huge share of you probably shopped at within the last week. It finished dead last. We pulled chicken from 12 different retailers, Walmart, Costco, Target, and 9 more, and ran every package through the same evaluation. Here's the rule that governs this whole investigation. The front of the package is marketing. The back is the truth. We're counting down the 9 that came up short, saving the worst for last, then covering the 3 that got it right, plus 3 kitchen tests and a 5-second checklist so you'd never have to take our word for it again. Quick thing first, drop the store where you buy your chicken in the comments before you know anything else. By the end, you'll know exactly where it landed. Let's get into it. Number 9, Members Mark, Sam's Club. The entire pitch of Sam's Club is more chicken for less money, and Members Mark genuinely delivers on volume. But bulk buying has a hidden multiplier nobody warns you about. Whatever detail you skip checking on one small tray, you've now bought that same detail 12 times over in one purchase. A few ounces of retained water in a single package is easy to shrug off. That identical percentage, scaled across a family-sized case for the freezer, turns into a real chunk of weight you paid chicken prices for. Savings that quietly evaporate by the pound rather than showing up at checkout. It's not that Members Mark chicken is inherently bad, and plenty of the bulk selection is perfectly reasonable. It's that buying in bulk mechanically turns a small labeling detail into a genuinely large one the moment you multiply it by a full case. Flip a single pack and actually read the fine print before the whole case goes in the cart. At that scale, the label stops being a suggestion and becomes the entire difference between a real deal and an expensive mistake. Number 8, Food Lion. Some grocery chains just feel homier, smaller, friendlier, like the chicken practically came from down the road. That feeling is itself the trap. Feeling local doesn't automatically mean sourced locally. A warm logo and a regional-sounding name are decoration, not a promise. Food Lion's everyday chicken is fundamentally the same standard product you'd find at any large chain, just wrapped in a friendlier-feeling presentation. The local warmth lives on the sign and in the marketing, not on the actual back-of-package facts, which stay genuinely thin on sourcing detail. To be fair, Food Lion does carry better lines. They're simply understocked or buried behind the basic packs that get the prime shelf space. A homey, welcoming shopping experience is a genuinely pleasant thing to have nearby. It is not, on its own, a sourcing guarantee of anything, and it shouldn't be allowed to do your label reading for you at the register. Number 7, Tyson. Start with one of the biggest names in the category. See the Tyson logo and your brain fills in the rest automatically. Huge company, must be reliable. And a lot of what Tyson sells is genuinely fine. But Tyson is where an important lesson of this whole video shows up. The most important word on that package was never the brand name. It's the product name printed just below it. Look closely at certain Tyson lines and you'll find phrasing along the lines of enhanced with a 15% solution, listing water, salt, and flavoring as the added components. That's not fine print nobody bothered to fix. That's the actual recipe, spelled out. You thought you grabbed plain chicken. What you actually grabbed is chicken plus a marinade you never asked for, priced as if it were pure meat. The fix takes 2 seconds. Ignore the logo. Read the product name underneath it. Chicken breast alone is what you want. Chicken breast with solution means you've found the built-in upcharge. Watch also for the Izai, breaded frozen sublines, which tend to carry filler ingredients and confusing sub-branding that makes the enhanced cuts easy to grab by mistake. Number 6, Aldi. Now flip the expectation entirely. Walk into Aldi assuming rock-bottom quality to match the rock-bottom prices, and this is where that assumption gets corrected. Aldi's Never Any line is raised without antibiotics, without animal byproducts mixed into the feed, and carries a genuinely clean, readable label. A real showing for the price point, not a marketing illusion. While we're here, one myth worth killing outright, that no added hormone sticker plastered across chicken packaging everywhere. It sounds like a meaningful differentiator. It isn't. Hormone use in poultry has been federally prohibited for decades for every single producer in the country. Printing it on a label is technically accurate and functionally meaningless. Every bird in every store already qualifies. Aldi lands on the avoid side of this list only because it's absolute cheapest packs skip past the never-any upgrade entirely. Reach one shelf over for that specific line, and you've quietly outshopped people spending double at fancier stores. Number 5. Safeway. This one teaches arguably the single most useful trick in the entire investigation. What matters isn't only what the label says, it's what it conspicuously doesn't say. The assumption is that a big established supermarket chain automatically means better chicken. So the everyday Safeway pack gets tossed in the cart without a second look. Pick it up and hunt specifically for one word: air-chilled. On most of Safeway's standard chicken, that word simply isn't there, and that absence is the entire story by itself. When a company chills its chicken the more expensive, better way, it advertises that fact loudly because it genuinely cost more to do. The word gets printed in bold specifically because it's a real selling point. When that word is missing, it's rarely an accident. It usually means the chicken went through the cheaper, standard route, and the company would rather you not dwell on it. Safeway does carry a stronger line, open nature, but on the basic packs, the empty space where air-chilled should be tells you more than anything they actually chose to print. The final 4 retailers on this list are the ones shoppers trust most by default, the names that rarely get a second thought at checkout. And the closer this list gets to number 1, the harder that trust falls apart, ending with a name almost nobody watching would have expected to see there before we get to it. Number 4. Kroger. The assumption here is simple. Kroger is a massive established chain, so whatever's in the cart is probably a safe bet. The reality is sneakier than that. Kroger is functionally 2 different stores sharing one meat aisle. The first is the default chicken. Piled up front, frequently discounted, the pack your hand reaches for without thinking. Forgettable the moment it's cooked. The second is the simple truth line. Raised without antibiotics, with a materially cleaner label and clearer sourcing story. Sometimes sitting on the exact same shelf as the first option. Kroger doesn't fail this ranking because its best chicken is bad. It genuinely isn't. It fails because of where a rushed shopper's hand naturally lands after a long day, without stopping to compare the 2 options sitting inches apart. The lesson generalizes past Kroger specifically. Stop asking whether a given store is good and start asking whether the specific package in your hand is good. Same retailer, 2 completely different answers, 3 feet apart. Number 3. Perdue. This one stings slightly more than the others on this list because Perdue's reputation wasn't invented by an ad agency. It was actually earned over decades of genuinely different practices in some parts of the business. The assumption feels entirely fair. Perdue is careful, trusted, clearly a step above the generic stuff. And in real ways, it is. The company has a solid track record on processing standards, and its no antibiotics ever line is a genuinely strong option. But brand trust and shelf reality don't always line up perfectly. For all that earned goodwill, most of Perdue's standard chicken is produced through the same ordinary industry process as everyone else's. The name buys confidence, not automatically a different process. And confidence is exactly what makes people stop reading labels. That's the actual trap. The brand you trust most is the one you end up checking least carefully, which means your guard drops precisely on the package that most needed a second look. Seek out Perdue's premium line on purpose rather than grabbing the standard pack on autopilot, and trust the label a little more than the logo. Number 2. Walmart. Almost to the bottom. And this one is entirely about the math nobody does standing at the register. It's Walmart, so the assumption is simple. Lowest price? Obvious deal. Here's where that stops being true. A large share of standard chicken gets cooled in a giant shared tank of cold water, and the bird absorbs some of that water before it's ever sealed into a package. A fact regulators require the label to disclose, buried in small type, as may contain up to X% retained water. That water is physically inside the pack you're carrying to your car. Picture a 5-pound family pack holding roughly 10% retained water. That's close to half a pound of water, priced and sold as if it were meat. Do that every single week across a full year of grocery runs, and you've spent genuine, real money on liquid that does nothing but pour straight into the pan and evaporate as steam the moment heat touches it. The lowest sticker price sitting on the shelf isn't necessarily the lowest real price you actually end up paying once that math gets run properly. And at Walmart specifically, the cheap option can mean you're buying more retained water than anywhere else on this list. And now, number 1. And the worst overall score didn't go to the cheapest retailer on this list. It went to one of the most loved, most trusted names in the entire country, which is exactly why it earned this specific spot. Number 1. Target. Premium look, thoroughly ordinary process underneath it. This is the strongest assumption on the entire list. Target's store brand is one of the most trusted names in American retail, and the packaging genuinely looks premium. So surely the chicken inside matches that impression. The packaging really is beautifully designed. The trust genuinely is real. That's exactly the problem. Underneath all that clean, modern presentation, Target's standard chicken is produced through the same ordinary process as the bargain packs sitting at other chains on this list, right down to the chilling method, and the label discloses almost nothing about where the bird actually came from or how it got to that shelf. Why does this land at number 1 instead of one of the objectively cheaper retailers? Not because it's unsafe, and not because it's a bad product. Plenty of households are perfectly happy with it. It's the gap between promise and delivery. A cheap store offering little is expected, and shoppers walk in already knowing that. A polished, beloved, deeply trusted retailer delivering the exact same thing while looking premium is the bigger letdown. Precisely because the prettier the front of the package, the more it's counting on you never flipping it over. So why do 9 different retailers keep landing on essentially the same trick? To understand that, you have to understand how chicken itself quietly changed as an industry. And this next part is the key that makes the entire rest of this video make sense. Picture chicken 60 plus years ago, before any of the 12 retailers on this list existed in their current form. A local farm, a local butcher, a person behind the counter you actually knew by name and could ask a direct question. The bird arrived, got processed, and went home with you the same day. Minimal handling, maximum trust built on direct relationships. Then American demand for chicken exploded. Everyone wanted it, every night, cheap, and the small farm and butcher model simply couldn't scale to meet that. Processing consolidated into massive centralized plants built entirely around speed. Thousands of birds moving through identical steps, all designed to look and process the same way. That speed required a way to cool the meat within minutes rather than hours, so the industry built enormous tanks of cold water. Birds submerged by the hundreds, chilled together in under an hour. Fast, cheap, and remarkably consistent output. That single engineering decision, cooling chicken by submersion in a shared water bath, sits at the center of nearly everything wrong with the 9 retailers already covered. Here's the distinction in plain terms. Air-chilled chicken cools slowly through refrigerated air, each bird handled individually rather than pooled together. No shared bath, no water absorption, and the meat can actually lose a small amount of moisture rather than gain it. What you're buying is close to pure chicken by weight. Water-chilled chicken cools inside that communal tank and absorbs water as it goes, often somewhere between 8% and 12% of its total weight by the time it comes out. That absorbed water rides home inside the sealed package. That's the puddle from the very start of this investigation, sitting there in the pan like it appeared out of nowhere. That's the boiling instead of browning, the shrinking instead of holding size. It was never actually about cooking technique. It was about which chilling method touched the meat before it ever reached your kitchen. The illusion runs considerably deeper than water alone though, because the entire category got visually standardized right alongside the processing method itself, so the differences never show up where a shopper would naturally look for them. Every package converged on the same pale color, the same plump shape, the same tidy tray. So the cheapest option and the most expensive option can look like identical twins on the shelf, even when one is mostly meat and the other is meaningfully diluted with water. As the industry scaled up, the story attached to the product shrank down to match. The named farm disappeared, the named butcher disappeared, and what's left on most labels is a logo, a weight, and a price. Chicken got more convenient with every passing year, and every increment of that convenience quietly traded away a piece of the transparency that used to come standard. You gained speed, the story got left behind. None of this amounts to a food safety scandal, and nothing described here is actually unsafe to eat. Every retailer on this list is selling a legal inspected product. It's simply hidden by design, a system optimized entirely around throughput, where speed leaves the underlying story off the label rather than printed on it in plain language anyone could act on. Once you understand the mechanism though, you don't need anyone's ranking to protect yourself going forward. Before covering the 3 retailers that got this right, here are 3 simple tests you can run in your own kitchen tonight. No lab equipment required. Test 1, the paper towel test. Take chicken from 2 different packages and press a dry paper towel against each one. The water-heavy piece soaks the towel quickly and leaves it visibly dripping. The air-chilled piece leaves the towel mostly dry. The towel doesn't have an opinion to sell you. More liquid transferred simply means more water you paid for. Test 2. The pan test. Heat a dry pan and cook both pieces side by side. Watching closely, one will sizzle and develop a genuine golden crust. The other releases a visible puddle, starts steaming instead of searing, and stays pale the entire time. Browning signals real chicken. Steaming signals water working its way back out. Test 3. The shrink test. Weigh a piece before cooking. Cook it fully, then weigh it again. The water-heavy piece loses noticeably more mass because the absorbed water cooks off along with normal moisture loss. The air-chilled piece holds its size far better and leaves more actual food on the plate. That difference is money kept or lost every single time you cook. Run each test once, side by side, with 2 packages you'd normally never think to compare, and you'll start judging chicken with your own eyes from that point forward, independent of anything printed on the front of a box or however confidently a logo is presented. Now, the 3 retailers that made this easy by putting the truth back on the label, counting up to the strongest recommendation. Best 3. Costco. The assumption is that a bulk warehouse automatically means basic, no-frills quality, the kind of trade-off you accept in exchange for the lower per-pound price. This is the best surprise of the entire investigation, and the one result that genuinely reversed our own expectations going in. A significant share of Costco's Kirkland signature fresh chicken is now labeled air-chilled, the exact upgrade premium retailers routinely charge extra for, and Costco doesn't raise the per-pound price for it at all. That's genuinely unusual value. A premium process priced like a standard one honest caveat. It isn't air-chilled across every single cut or product line consistently, so the label still needs a quick check on each visit rather than assuming the whole department qualifies. When you do spot that word on a Costco package, it's one of the strongest values in the entire meat case. Best 2. Whole Foods. The assumption here is that Whole Foods amounts to expensive groceries wrapped in a health halo, priced high mostly for the feeling of shopping there. The price is genuinely higher. No argument there, but so is the actual verifiable information you get in exchange for it. Every fresh chicken product in the Whole Foods meat department is air-chilled. The exact detail 9 of the retailers already covered wouldn't print anywhere. It goes further than that. The chicken carries certification through an animal welfare program with real, publicly documented standards. No cages, no overcrowding. Clearly defined raising rules rather than a cartoon graphic standing in for an actual claim. If Whole Foods isn't accessible where you shop, look specifically for a brand called Smart Chicken, which offers fully air-chilled, organic, and antibiotic-free options at a wide range of ordinary grocery stores. Clean and dry in the package, and it crisps properly in a hot pan. Best 1. Bell & Evans. The assumption going in is that the winner has to be a giant, universally recognized national name. It isn't. The winner is simply the brand that hides the least. Bell & Evans runs 100% air-chilled. Not a partial rollout, not mostly. Fully across the line, which means the package can honestly claim no retained water and essentially 0 watered down weight. Every ounce purchased is actual meat rather than a mix of meat and absorbed liquid. It doesn't stop at chilling method. The birds are raised without antibiotics. The brand carries genuine animal welfare certification, and the company is unusually transparent about exactly how the chicken gets from farm to package. Cooked in a hot pan, it sears, browns, crisps at the skin, and holds its size instead of shrinking away. It costs more upfront on the sticker. No argument there. But since none of that price is paying for absorbed water sitting silently in the package, the effective price per ounce of actual usable meat often lands considerably closer to the cheaper options than the sticker price alone would suggest. Bell & Evans wins by putting the entire story back on the label, in language any shopper can actually pass without a food science background. And once you know how to read that story yourself, you stop needing anyone's #1 pick at all. This video included 4 myths worth dropping before your next grocery run. First, expensive chicken is automatically better. False. Some pricey packages are still water-chilled, and something like Costco's air-chilled Kirkland line can outperform fancier brands at a fraction of the cost. Price alone tells you almost nothing. The label tells you nearly everything. Second, natural means the same thing as air-chilled. It doesn't. Natural generally just means no artificial ingredients and minimal processing. And a natural labeled chicken can still be water-chilled and carrying extra absorbed weight. Third, all chicken cooks identically regardless of brand. Also false, and now you know exactly why. Air-chilled sears and crisps, water-chilled steams and shrinks, from what looks like the same starting recipe. Fourth, more visible liquid in the package means fresher chicken. Often the opposite is true. That extra liquid is usually residual water from the chilling tank rather than a freshness signal. And a drier, cleaner looking package is frequently the better product. And here's the whole investigation compressed into something you can actually use standing in the aisle in 5 seconds. 1. Flip the package over. Never judge chicken from the front, since the front is marketing and the back is the truth. 2. Hunt for one specific word: air-chilled. If it's printed, that's a green light. If it's absent, assume water-chilled by default. 3. Find the water disclosure line. May contain up to X% retained water. And remember, lower is better, with no retained water being the ideal outcome. 4. Read the complete product name, not just the brand. Any mention of an added percentage solution means injected salt water, while a plain chicken breast listing with nothing appended means you're in the clear. 5. Look for one real checkable signal: a named farm, a welfare certification backed by actual public standards, rather than a friendly illustration doing the emotional work a real claim should be doing. None of this was ever about frightening anyone away from the meat aisle entirely. Nothing covered here is unsafe, and every single retailer on this list, including the one that finished last, carries at least some good options if you know specifically where on the shelf to look for them. This was about handing you a genuinely different way of looking at the same shelf you've been shopping for years. The next time you're standing at that cold case, you won't need to guess. You'll flip the package, check for one word, read the waterline, and glance at the full product name. And the whole process takes about 5 seconds once it's automatic. The front is marketing. The back has always been the truth. A ranking helps you exactly once. Knowing how to read the label yourself helps you every single time you shop for the rest of your life.